I don't think there's a leadership book in the world that doesn't talk about trust. It's almost become a bit of a cliche. But I think that many people think about trust incorrectly in the context of teamwork. To have a cohesive team, we must of course have high levels of trust between each of its members. However, it's about how we actually define that trust that I want to talk about today. I would guess that more often than not when we think about trust, we think about the classic version of being able to predict the behaviour of another team member based on our past experiences. For example, you may trust that a team member will get something delivered on time because they've always done so in the past. Or you may trust that they'll be able to handle a particularly difficult client negotiation because they've always done a good job before. As desirable as this type of trust is, and it is very desirable, in the context of teamwork, the kind of trust we need is the trust in the good intentions of all team members, and that there is no need to tread carefully or be guarded in any situation. In other words, everyone on the team needs to be comfortable that they can be themselves and not have to worry about displaying a weakness or a vulnerability and having it taken advantage of or punished in any way. I've mentioned before that if people are afraid to make mistakes, their only recourse is to stop growing and to stop innovating. But in addition to that, nothing divides a team, kills productivity and team spirit more than politics. And by politics, I mean people choosing their words and action based on how they want other people to react rather than telling us what they really think. Often this is the behaviour of an individual or group that maximises self-interest over the interests of the organisation or of other employees. If this kind of thing is going on, so much energy goes into making sure that we say the right thing and guarding against repercussions that innovation, quick thinking, feedback, delegation, healthy debate, well, all of those things go out the window. One common symptom of this is people dreading team meetings. If you think you can have productive team meetings with all that going on underneath the surface, then think again. If you were observing people acting defensively, jumping to conclusions about the intent of others, not asking for help or feedback, concealing weaknesses, talking about other team members behind their back, forming small coalitions, taking credit for the work of others, passing blame, even keeping bits of their work secret to protect their own turf, you may well have a trust issue in part or even all of your team. So what can you do about it? Well, like respect, trust can't be built overnight or simply demanded. It requires shared experiences and a real understanding of each other. It requires people to show a vulnerability and have a positive outcome many times over. And like anything of this nature, it takes time to do. But there are a few things you can do to try and speed up the process. You could do some typical ice-breaking exercises where people share a few things about themselves, good and bad. If you don't want this to be a formal session, then perhaps just spend a few minutes talking about life outside of work at the beginning of team meetings. You could try to find items of work which could be accomplished as a group. For software engineers, we use mob programming for this often. Just be sure to get everyone involved and don't let anyone isolate themselves or sit outside the group. You could try some sort of personality profiling in your team, something like the Myers-Briggs type indicator. I'm not a massive fan of these. It's not something I'd reach for straight away, but I know that some people swear by them. One approach that I saw and I found quite interesting was to have each member of the team write a README. This is basically a quick text document which describes the best way to work with them, when they're most productive, strengths, weaknesses, pet peeves, the best way to communicate with them, whether they like to take praise in public or in private, why they decided to work in your organisation, how to tell when they're in a bad mood or annoyed, career goals, that sort of thing. But by far and away, the best way I know to encourage this behaviour in a team is to display some vulnerability yourself. Ask for help from team members who are perhaps better at a particular task than you and tell them why. Ask people for feedback. Basically, be prepared to lose face in front of the team and show them that it's okay to do so. And importantly, make sure it's genuine. No fake, intelligence insulting, cringy, Michael Scott, fake roleplay stuff. Most importantly, never ever tease or punish a team member for displaying a weakness or a vulnerability, and be on the lookout for those that do. If you know any ways to improve the levels of trust within a team, please do let us know in the comments below. And what other symptoms have you seen of mistrust in a team? And finally, if you found this video valuable, please do give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I put out a video each week aimed at starting a conversation about improving leadership, and your support really helps. Thanks for watching. See you soon.